Hello, my name is Ben.
And my name's Josh.
Welcome back to FPL Graduates and welcome back to another video where we're going into another game week. The international break has been and gone and we're back into the full flow of FPL, at least until the next international break. Anyway, let's get into some of our transfer targets for this week and the players that we think you should potentially be looking to bring into your teams.
Okay, so coming off the back of a pretty successful game week 4 for myself, this guy was pretty big part of that, to say the least. Leif Davis coming up first in our transfer plans. He was in last week's video as well as a £4.5 million defender that you could potentially pick up. Obviously Ipswich's fixture run from last week and going forwards really improves, considering they've obviously already faced Manchester City and Liverpool so far this season. Leif Davis and Ipswich have Southampton away this week, Villa at home next week, which is obviously not as easy, and then West Ham away the week after. In terms of him so far this season, he's picked up 1 assist for Ipswich, and obviously they've got the clean sheet against Brighton, albeit probably a little bit undeserved given the fact that Brighton did accumulate quite a lot of XG in that game. What's your thoughts on Davis, Ben? Do you think he's going up in the rankings of those 4.5 million defenders?
Yes, but not to the top for me, just because the Ipswich defence is something that you can't trust all the time. I was sort of expecting the XGI to be a little bit higher than it was. It's averaging out at about sort of 0.13-ish per 90, which is it's not the best, it's not the worst. So I think sort of it's a middle of the lane pick for me, where you play the fixtures here rather than sort of the quality of the team that he plays for. Southampton away, West Ham away are two relatively decent fixtures with a bit more of a tough one at home to Aston Villa in there. I think he's going to be, we've seen already, like at home there's much more appeal to playing someone like Davis than he is away. So if you're looking at someone who's going to rotate in and out of your team, I think it's a decent option, but it wouldn't be my top sort of priority transfer in. He doesn't look like he's going to sort of like set the FPL world completely alight and in flames like we have seen from some sort of promoted defender assets we've had previously. Okay, so next up we've got a player that I'm potentially looking at transferring into my team this week. It is Trent Alexander-Arnold. The XGI, as you can see, is just a little bit more than it is of Leif Davis, and it's to be expected. He's 7 million, so nearly double in the price, which is crazy. He's picked up, a couple of clean sheets. He's not quite got that attacking return. He got an attacking return in midweek for Liverpool in the Champions League as well. Josh, I'm looking to bring him in. What are your thoughts on him? Is Trent sort of an asset that you expect to do well over the next few weeks?
I definitely think he is, although he does have less attacking returns than Leif Davis so far this season. He's playing well, and yeah, the returns are coming. I think a lot of people are expecting a big monster haul, which he definitely is capable of. I think defensively, Liverpool though, I don't think they're as solid as what their opening 3 has suggested. I think, when they faced United, they did concede over 1.5 XG. So lucky to keep a clean sheet there. Obviously, Nottingham Forest a little bit different, but Forest were always going to play that way in terms of counter-attacking against them at Anfield. So for me, I could easily see Bournemouth scoring against them this weekend. Bournemouth are a decent side going forwards. Unlucky to not score against Chelsea last week as well. So yeah, clean sheet-wise, I think obviously less appealing, but you're definitely going to be bringing them in for that attacking threat. Over 2 XGI so far this season is absolutely insane. From just 4 fixtures, that's like 0.5 XGI per 90, which is crazy. Some big premium players are not even matching that sort of level of output at the moment. So yeah, really nice pick, and I think that's what makes him good at 7 million, is that you do have that clean sheet potential, which is decent with Liverpool, not necessarily just like Arsenal where it's been really, really good, but then you have that incredible attacking output as well. So yeah, I think going forwards, especially over these next 3, I think he's really good. After that, when their fixtures get a bit tougher, I'm not so sure. Okay, then, so we're going to move into some midfield assets and talk about a couple of different ones, maybe some that you might have in your team already, and also some that could be coming into your team for upcoming runs. Garnacho is up first. He's in Ben's team at the time of recording. Obviously, he's only had 1 start so far in the Premier League, so not ideal for owners, but we've seen that coming off the bench has almost been beneficial for him because he's been involved in huge, big chances off the bench. Obviously got a goal last week against Southampton off the bench as well. United's fixtures going forward, I think from an attacking perspective, are actually not too bad. Face Palace away, who have looked pretty poor defensively to start this season. Spurs as well, not necessarily the best defence, and then they do face Villa away, which we all know Josh hates Aston Villa's defence so far this season. So yeah, for me, I think attacking wise, United's fixtures are decent despite the FDR rankings. Garnacho actually has some of the best underlying data out of all the United attackers, despite only playing 139 minutes so far this season. 5 big chance involvements in that amount of minutes is absolutely crazy. Obviously, Ben, you own him. What's the thoughts on him at the moment?
I own him, and like before the midweek fixture, I was thinking, you know what, it might be time to just sort of sell because of the minutes risks. But you know, we've seen how good he is, and I'm almost tempted to keep him just because he's been so good, and the form he's playing himself into at the moment. I think he's going to get starts. I think he's going to go on a good run now of sort of games. So yeah, I was looking at selling him. I think the 2 goals and 2 assists in midweek have probably spun my mind about 20 million different directions, and I'll probably end up keeping him this week against Palace away. Whether he starts or not is another one to sort of really sort of struggle to decipher, because he played about 80 minutes in midweek, which is sort of like on the verge of, is it a risk, is it not? 10 minutes, you know, it's a difficult one to judge. So yeah, the minutes is the one you've got to be careful of, but it's not necessarily the worst thing in the world if he gets sort of 30 minutes off the bench. You've just got to hope that he outscores you know, players that are starting. I think it is slightly unsustainable if he continues to come off the bench. I don't think that rate of returns will continue, but if he gets the starts, that rate might sort of continue in the same vein that it is currently.
Yeah, 100%. And also to note on that, in terms of the minute side of things, Mason Mount and Rasmus Højlund are back in training as of today. At the time of recording, this is Wednesday night. So again, more players to potentially take minutes off him. If I had to guess going into this game week, I'd actually expect Amad Diallo to start again and Garnacho to come off the bench again, despite how good he's been performing in the weeks. It's just, I think Amad Diallo just gives United a lot more balance, obviously playing on the right and being natural on the right, and I just don't see Ten Hag dropping Rashford at the moment.
Speaking of, Marcus Rashford is up next with 316 minutes played, a goal. XG and XA not the best, not the worst, but again looks to be a player starting to play himself into a little bit of form. 4 big chance involvements already, which is really, really good. There's 6.9 million with the fixtures coming up. Josh, you're the resident United fan. Give us your thoughts on the lowdown on Marcus Rashford.
Yeah, you nailed it on the head. Looks like he's playing himself into a bit of form. Obviously got the goal against Southampton last weekend. Pretty well taken goal. It was interesting to see on his big chance involvement, 3 of them have actually come from assist threats. So we're seeing a lot more crosses from him, playing quite wide out on the left. Maybe not as much goal threat as what we've seen before. Against Barnsley in the week, he did start up front and play through the middle. Lots more goal threat. Obviously him and Garnacho sort of teamed up for multiple returns in that game when they won 7-0. So yeah, obviously I'd take that with a bit of a pinch of salt. Obviously they're not going to be playing Barnsley every week, sadly, so probably not going to get that level of output from him, but I think he's one to monitor. If you've got someone around that sort of price tag, obviously a lot of the Liverpool guys potentially losing minutes going forwards, he could be someone that could come in. And I think compared to someone like a Garnacho or an Amad, his minutes seem to be more nailed. He seems to always be favoured by Ten Hag. He's not been, well, dropped. He started all the games so far, and as you can see, compared to Garnacho minutes, 316, you know that he's going to be on the pitch for the majority. So yeah, from my perspective, I think if you're looking for more, like you say, Ben, obviously if with Garnacho not going to be sustained coming off the bench all the time, whereas Rashford, I think, as he continues to build this confidence, he will sort of get those attacking returns going forwards. Okay then, so moving on to another midfield asset that has sort of surprised me so far this season, it is Jarrod Bowen. He has only blanked once out of the opening 4 game weeks so far this season, despite West Ham having a pretty tough run to start the season. Obviously, you know you're getting minutes with Jarrod Bowen, 337 so far this season, 3 attacking returns as I mentioned. Expected data, not necessarily the best, but he has been playing some tough fixtures, so you're not expecting it to be too crazy. Are we just overlooking Jarrod Bowen just because he's just you know what you're going to get. He's not necessarily too explosive. We've seen it in the past where he can get those monster hauls, but it's not one of those. He's like Bukayo Saka, man. He's just going to tick over.
Yeah, I think he ticks on quite well, and I think a lot of managers sort of forgot how consistent he is in his attacking returns. He's the talisman for West Ham, and you know, the West Ham are sort of, despite the sort of stars that they've brought into the team, Bowen has remained as that focal point of the attack, goal threat, and goals. So yeah, I think he is one that, you know, will tick along quite nicely. Probably an ideal Anthony Gordon replacement if you're looking that way. The fixtures coming up are decent as well, like Chelsea at home. I wouldn't say is a bad fixture at all, considering sort of West Ham's record against Chelsea isn't the worst either. So yeah, when you look at the fixtures there for him, and par that in with the fact that he is that consistent, I think he is a really safe option to go for if you're looking for guaranteed minutes and guaranteed returns. Maybe not the monster hauls, but at least you're guaranteeing yourself points, hopefully each week anyway. Okay, so moving on to some forward options, and we have got here Jamie Vardy. Who would have thought that in 2024 we'd be considering this man again? His stats and his XG for the start of the season have actually been really, really good. And they've been really good in particular against the poor teams. In 2 of the games, he accumulated nearly 1 XG in both those. And in the other 2, he basically accumulated nothing. And that was against the toughest sort of teams that they had in the opening 4 games. So he's doing well against teams that aren't great. He's not doing well against those teams that are maybe playing a bit of a higher line, maybe a bit more quality in the defence. So we can see with the 2 fixtures they got coming up in the next 3 against Everton and Bournemouth, that could be the fixtures there to target Jamie Vardy, particularly that Everton game. It's such a good fixture. I think in isolation, if you're looking at like a punt before wildcarding potentially, I think this is a really, really good option. We've obviously got some doubts about João Pedro, etc. This could be a fantastic alternative.
Yeah, definitely agree. I think he's looking pretty solid to start the season. I think the thing that's impressed me the most is the minutes. I didn't expect him to get that many minutes to start the season. Obviously, game week 1, we didn't even think he was really going to start due to having an injury and not really playing in pre-season. So for him to rack up 330 minutes in the opening 4 is really impressive. And like you say, if he's on the pitch, he's gonna get a chance eventually, and he's probably gonna take it with his goal record. So yeah, a nice option, and also cheap as chips as well at 5.7 mil. Okay then, so back into midfield, we're going with Dwight McNeil up next. Obviously, Ben mentioned how poor Everton have been defensively, but going forward so far this season, they've actually been pretty solid. Dwight McNeil's played every single minute of Everton's campaign so far. Obviously, against Aston Villa, looks really good and got quite a big haul against them with that goal and an assist. Fixture wise for Everton longer term is looking pretty juicy as well, with Leicester away, Palace at home, and they proceed to get more green as they progress. So decent numbers for him. Biggest caveat though is that his goal threat is absolutely awful. It's like worse than centre back's goal threat with 0.11 XG so far this season. The big draw with him though is the assist threat, mainly from set pieces as well. Massive assist threat with 2.42 expected assist so far this season. What's your thoughts on Dwight McNeil, Ben? Do you think he's good value at 5.4?
I think the fact he's 5.4 means that yes, he is good value. Obviously, managers are going to be put off because he plays for Everton. The minutes are secure. The goal threat is there. There's not too much not to like about it, other than the fact he plays for Everton, and you can't trust that they're going to be like sort of attacking wise great every week. So it's one where I think we're probably going to segue into another player that will probably affect Dwight McNeil's output, and if he is playing, then he's definitely a decent option. Me myself have not thought about sort of bringing in Dwight McNeil personally, just because it's not the most exciting pick in the world. But again, quite like Jared Bowen, he is producing attacking returns. Traditionally, over the last couple of seasons, it's not been the best, but he has had spells of like 3 or 4 game weeks in a row where he's done well. So we just have to bear that in mind. He could be sort of coming into a bit of form and sort of starting to produce in the Premier League in terms of consistent attacking returns. And that man that we were talking about is, of course, Dominic Calvert-Lewin. We've known him as a very decent FPL asset at Everton. We've known him as a very poor FPL asset at Everton. At the moment, he's priced at 5.9 million with 3 attacking returns already this season. And the expected data is actually really good as well. At 5.9 million, he looks to be quite a bargain, which, again, We wouldn't have thought we would have said this at the start of the season, but he is now turning into a bit of a genuine option. Josh, 0.2 more than Jamie Vardy. The minutes are looking secure. Hopefully he doesn't get an injury, which always seems to happen with DCL. What's the thought process here?
Yeah, I really like him, and I think it's quite a tough decision between Vardy and Calvert-Lewin. I think Everton's fixtures are just edged Leicester's due to that Arsenal one being slap bang in the middle. But yeah, for me, talismanic figure on penalties. And like we've seen so far this season, he's getting involved in big chances. Okay, he's not necessarily taking all of them, but I'd much rather a player who's getting loads of big chances than someone who's getting minimal big chances at all. So yeah, for me, I really like him. I think in terms of like a Mooney's replacement or someone of that ilk, if you've got no budget and you're looking at about 6 mil and under, I think for me personally, I'd take DCL over Vardy, just for those longer term fixtures are a little bit better. I just really like him as a decent option this week. Okay then, so next up on the list we're into midfield, and Kevin Schade is on our list. He's again 5.4 million, so the same price as Dwight McNeil. Didn't expect him to be on the list, to be honest, this week, but obviously Johan Visser is out injured for at least 2 months for Brentford, which is a massive shame because I'd actually say he was the go-to asset at that £6 million price point with Brentford's fixture run up and coming. Tottenham away this week, which is going to be a key fixture to see how they do line up without Visser. I think it's a massive blow to Brentford losing him, not even in terms of them on the ball, but off the ball as well, in the way they press with Mbeumo and Visser is a massive threat of theirs, and we saw it against Southampton a couple of weeks ago. So how Kevin Schade sort of implements into the team will be interesting. It's so far this season he's played a decent amount of minutes, to be fair, 209 minutes so far, got an assist, decent XG threat. Obviously it's a lot of substitute appearances, so you've got to bear that in mind as well. Obviously it's not all Alejandro Garnacho. So yeah, a decent option. What's your thoughts on him, Ben? Would you sort of wait and see in this sort of Tottenham game and then try and attack the fixtures after that?
Yeah, I think that's the play here with Schade. Like, you're not going to see too many sort of attacking returns or data that suggests, bring him in. But this is the perfect one for the engaged manager to sort of assess and see how he plays against Spurs. And look, if he's playing in a position where we think he's going to play, all of a sudden the fixture list opens up and you're looking at sort of a player that could get some consistent attacking returns in that Brentford team. So yes, I think he is a great option from next week onwards. Let's see how they set up against Spurs. Eye test is going to be crucial for this as well, I think, with you're not going to potentially see too many sort of high XG involvement from him just because it's a bit of a better defence in the league in Spurs. But seeing how they set up, what chance creation they're looking to build, and how they're building their play up to see where Schade fits into the system is really going to be key here. So make sure to sort of keep an eye on how he plays there. Okay, and finally, we've got another Manchester United player. You can tell Josh has been writing these players up. We've got Joshua Zirkzee of Manchester United, and as you can see by the stats, we wouldn't have expected it, but the XG looks pretty decent from the minutes that he has played. Again, more minutes played than maybe we would have thought that he would have played at the start of the season. 7 million with the fixtures that United have got coming up. Is he an option, or is the threat of rotation just sort of too much to sort of sway you in this one?
Yeah, I think before today, with Hornan obviously coming back into trading, I think I would have happily said that he's one of my favourite forward options. He's getting a lot of big chances so far. In the 2 games he started, he's got 4 big chances. So in terms of him being involved, he's always there. Obviously over 2 XG so far this season with just the 1 goal in Gameweek 1 is obviously showing that he's there. As I mentioned, in terms of DCL, he's getting involved, he's getting those big chances, which is what we want our assets to get, and eventually those FPL returns will come. But yeah, now that we've seen Højlund back in training, it does pose a risk. Obviously United are playing every 3 days like most teams at the moment as well, with Europa League on the horizon too. So yeah, for me, probably not as big of a fan as what I was maybe at the start of the week, but he's someone to sort of consider and see how Højlund is sort of integrated back into the team. Okay then, so that wraps up the transfer plans video for this week. Let us know if we've covered any players that you're potentially getting in this week, or anyone that you need help with. Comment them down below.
Yeah, and as always, please remember to like, comment and subscribe to the FPL Graduates YouTube channel. And as always, I've been Ben.
I've been Josh.
And we'll see you guys
later. Have a good game week, everyone.
So you may rise, but but you'll never make me wanna stick around you.